Conquest came to Earth with one job: kill Invincible, collect the planet, go home. He beat Mark half to death. He tore Oliver apart. He nearly killed Eve, Abe. And through all of that, he was smiling, having the time of his life. That was Conquest just playing around. But here is what nobody wants to say out loud. Conquest wasn't the worst thing the Viltrum Empire had to throw at him. Not even close. Conquest failed Thrag, and the punishment for that failure told us everything we needed to know about what Thrag actually is. Conquest, the monster who nearly killed 3 people just for fun, got on his knees and begged. And Thrag wasn't even impressed. That's who is coming in Season 4, and March 18th cannot get here fast enough. You need to understand something. Everything we have seen so far, every Viltrumite, every fight, every impossible situation that Mark has clawed his way out of has been a warm-up for this. Thrag, voiced by Lee Pace, is the Grand Regent of the Viltrum Empire. He isn't just another strong Viltrumite. He was bred and trained from birth to be the most powerful being his species had ever produced. Not selected, not promoted, engineered. Every single aspect of his existence was designed around one purpose, making him the apex of a race that has already conquered most of the known galaxy. Think about what that actually means. Omni-Man spent decades on Earth, softening it up, building relationships, working along Khan. That strategy. Conquest was sent as an attack dog, pure aggression and violence because Omni-Man's method failed. Thrag is neither of those things. He's something far more dangerous. He's a ruler who has kept an empire of the most powerful beings in the universe in line. Through sheer force of will and raw power for thousands of years, every Viltrumite answers to him. Conquest answers to him, Anissa answers to him, and the reason they do is because every single one of them knows that if Thrag decided to stop talking, there's nothing any of them could do about it. In the comics, Mark lands a full hit on Thrag during their first encounter. One clean punch, everything Mark has got. Thrag gets a nosebleed, that's it. A nosebleed. And then Thrag catches Oliver's next punch, tears his arm off, and breaks his jaw while barely turning around to do it. Kirkman himself described Thrag as the next step beyond Conquest. The same way Conquest was the next step beyond Omni-Man in Season 1, that escalation has been the backbone of this show from the very beginning. Lee Pace is perfect casting in a way that should make you nervous. Like if you watched him in Foundation as the Galactic Emperor, you already know what he does with quiet authority. The man doesn't even have to try. He just has to look at you and you already know. You're in the presence of someone who has never once doubted whether they could destroy you. That's Thrag. And he arrives in episode 2. Before we get into the war itself, we need to talk about Alan. Because Alan the alien is walking into Season 4 as one of the most terrifying variables in this entire conflict, and most people are sleeping on him. Cast your mind back to Season 2. Alan gets absolutely destroyed by 3 Viltrumites working in tandem. We are talking a beating so severe that he's left on the literal edge of death, floating in space, barely functioning. A normal person doesn't come back from that. A normal alien doesn't come back from that. Alan is not normal. His biology works in a way that's almost unfair. Every time he survives something that should have killed him, he comes back stronger than he was before. Significantly stronger. He survived 3 Viltrumites who were not holding back and came back with a power level that surprised even them when they encountered him again. During his capture by Anissa B, he was going toe-to-toe with her, and the only reason he let himself get captured was strategy, not necessity. He took a hit that rocked her and then pretended to go down so Nolan would jump in and help complete the escape. He wasn't hurt, he was playing chess. So, walking into the Viltrumite War, the question around Alan is not whether he can contribute, it's how much his ceiling has risen since the last time anyone tested it. And the answer to that's something nobody on the Viltrumite side is going to be prepared for. He also brings something to this fight that goes beyond raw power. Alan has been embedded in the coalition of planets for his entire adult life. He understands the political landscape of this war, the alliances, the weaknesses, the pressure points, in a way that Mark and Nolan simply do not. The Viltrumite War is not just a fistfight on a galactic scale. It's a war, and wars are won by strategy as much as strength. Alan understands that, and having him next to Mark and Nolan in the middle of all of this changes the dynamics of every engagement. Season 4 is adapting the Viltrumite War, a storyline from the comics that readers have been waiting on since the show was announced. And I want to explain what makes this war different from anything we have seen before, because the scale of its genuinely difficult to put into words. Every threat so far has been aimed at Earth. Omni-Man was on Earth, Conquest came to Earth, the Invincible War happened on Earth. The show has always been about protecting this one planet, this one home from an empire that views it as a resource to be absorbed. The Viltrumite War takes that fight off Earth entirely. Mark is not defending his home this time. He's going into the enemy's territory. The coalition of planets, led by Thetis, voiced by Peter Cullen, has decided that the only way to stop the Viltrum Empire is to go after it directly. And the team being assembled to do that includes Alan the Alien, Space Racer, Tech Jacket, and most complicated of all, Omni-Man. That last one is what the whole season is really about underneath everything else. Think about what it would feel like to stand next to your father knowing what he did. Mark watched Omni-Man push him through a train full of passengers and use him as the weapon that killed them. He stood in a mountain that was cracking around him while his father told him that humans were nothing, that everything Mark believed in was pointless. That memory doesn't go away. That wound doesn't close, and yet here they are side by side because the war requires it. The trailer shows them together. Every outlet covering this season has described it as an uneasy alliance, and that phrase is doing a tremendous amount of work because what it actually means is two people who should probably never be in the same room again, choosing to trust each other in the middle of a war. Neither of them can win alone. Every moment they fight together, you are going to be watching Mark try to figure out whether the man next to him is his father or the monster who tried to break him. That tension is not background noise. That's the emotional engine the entire season is running on. Here is where it gets genuinely wild, and this is where I have to gesture toward the comic territory a little bit. There is a secret sitting underneath the entire Viltrumite War storyline that reframes everything Thrag does. Thrag is not just a conqueror, he's the Grand Regent, which means he was assigned one specific duty at the beginning of his rule. Find the heir of Emperor Argol, the original ruler of the Viltrum Empire who was murdered before Thrag came to power. The throne technically doesn't belong to Thrag. He's a regent, a placeholder, and he has spent thousands of years being the most powerful being in the galaxy while sitting on a throne that was never really his. So what happens when he finds out who the actual heir is? The answer to that question sits right at the heart of why Thrag hates Mark and Nolan, with a fury that goes beyond just conquest and resistance. It's personal, deeply existentially personal. And when the show gets there, and it will get there, it's going to reframe every single thing Thrag has done from a new and even more disturbing angle. He's not just the villain of a war, he's a man who built his entire identity around something that was never actually his, and that makes him far more dangerous and far more interesting than just the strongest guy in the room. While Thrag is the mountain everyone can see coming, Dinosaurus, voiced by Matthew Rhys, is the one I think is going to catch people completely off guard. His real name is David Anders. He's a scientist who transforms into a massive red prehistoric creature, and his ideology is just coherent enough to be genuinely unsettling. He's not evil in the way Conquest is evil. Conquest just wants to hurt things. Dinosaurus has a theory. He believes that when cities are destroyed and infrastructure collapses, what follows is rebuilding. And in rebuilding, communities can grow stronger, more innovative, more resilient than they were before. His conclusion is that deliberate catastrophic destruction actually serves humanity better than heroic prevention ever could. He's wrong. But not so wrong that you can dismiss it in 2 seconds. And right at the start of season 4, as Mark is helping cities recover from the devastation of the Invincible War last season, Dinosaurus attacks. He forces Mark to have this argument in real time, mid-fight, while people are dying around them. And that's the cruelest part of why this character matters for where Mark is right now. A story Mark spent 3 seasons trying to do the right thing. He hesitated with Angstrom Levy because he thought he could reason with him. That hesitation directly caused the Invincible War. Thousands of deaths, cities leveled, Rex explode in a grave, all because Mark believed he could talk someone down. Is he going to make the same mistake again? Or is this the version of Mark who made a vow at Rex's funeral that his mercy ends where his family's safety begins? The show is about to test that vow in the very first episode, and Matthew Rhys is the kind of actor who is going to make you feel genuinely conflicted about whose side you are on even when the answer is obvious. Now, here is the storyline that I genuinely cannot stop thinking about, because it came out of nowhere and it's unlike anything the show has done before. At the end of season 3, Damien Darkblood is back. D, the demon detective who Cecil exorcised to hell back in season 1, has spent over a year in the underworld working on something. He meets with a demon lord voiced by Bruce Campbell, and he tells him he has developed developed a spell powerful enough to drag a surface dweller down into hell. A surface dweller whose power has not been seen on Earth in eons, and the demon lord, who may or may not be the actual devil, wants to use that power to seize the infernal throne. Robert Kirkman has confirmed that episode 4 of season 4 is the Dark Blood episode. He wrote it himself. He has talked publicly about the fact that one of his biggest regrets from the comics was never getting to do the story where heroes go to hell. Every major comic universe has done it. Invincible never got there, and now the show is going somewhere the comics never went, with Kirkman himself at the wheel for that specific episode. The obvious assumption is that the target is Mark. But Darkblood's exact words were a surface dweller whose power had not been seen on Earth in eons. Mark has been very present on Earth this entire time. Nolan, on the other hand, has been in space, in a Viltrumite prison. His power has quite literally not been on Earth's surface in a very long time. And there is also the darker theory, the one that keeps coming back. In season 1, when Cecil was banishing Darkblood back to hell, Darkblood looked him in the eyes and told him very calmly that he would see Cecil in hell one day, and that something far worse would be waiting for him there. That was a promise. Is season 4 the season that promise gets kept? Either way, what matters is that this is brand new territory. The comics cannot prepare you for this one. And Kirkman, caring enough to write that episode himself, should tell you everything you need to know about how much this storyline means to him. This is the thing nobody is talking about, and absolutely everybody should be. Cecil took the body. Mark beat Conquest's head in repeatedly, brutally. In one of the most viscerally uncomfortable sequences the show has ever produced, Mark crossed a line he had been refusing to cross for 3 seasons. He killed someone and he meant it. Conquest wasn't moving, he wasn't gonna get back up, except he's still alive. And he's currently sitting under 400 tons of steel in a GDA vault somewhere because Cecil had him taken before Mark could confirm the kill. Cecil wants information about Viltrumite weaknesses, Viltrumite tactics, anything he can extract from a barely living prisoner. It's the most Cecil decision imaginable, and it makes complete sense, and it's absolutely going to end horribly because this is Conquest. The same Conquest who took on Mark, Oliver, and Eve simultaneously while having a great time doing it. The same Conquest who Thrag uses as a weapon rather than a soldier. Like, the idea that 400 tons of steel holds that man indefinitely is the kind of assumption this show exists to punish. But here is the layer underneath it that makes this even more dangerous. Cecil extracted Conquest while Mark was still processing the emotional weight of what he had just done. Mark doesn't know the body is gone. He doesn't know Conquest is alive. He made that vow, crossed that line, went to a place he had never been before, and he's carrying the weight of believing he killed someone. All of that emotional reckoning is happening inside him while Cecil is quietly running experiments on a barely breathing monster a few floors underground. When Mark finds out, and he will find out, that conversation between him and Cecil is going to be one of the most loaded scenes the show has ever written. Because it's not just about Conquest. It's about whether Mark's sacrifice of his own moral code meant anything at all if the man who benefited from it immediately turned it into a resource. When Conquest wakes up, the question is not whether he breaks free. The question is what he does when he realizes who put him there. One more thing worth talking about, because it feeds into the overarching sense of how different Season 4 feels from what came before. The Guardians of the Globe are not the same team anymore. 3 of the original Season 1 members are dead or retired. The Immortal is no longer leading, the roster has shifted, and the people filling it out now are Jonathan Banks as Britt, Kari Payton as Dark Samson, Jay Farrow as Bulletproof, and Ben Schwartz as Shapesmith. A genuinely stacked voice cast for a team that's going to have to figure out how to function in a world where Thrag exists, and Earth's 2 most powerful defenders are off fighting a war in deep space, and that last part is the tension nobody's fully sitting with yet. The Viltrumite War takes Mark and Nolan off Earth. That's not a temporary situation. They are going into space, into enemy territory for an extended campaign, which means Earth, for a significant stretch of this season, is being defended by a Guardians lineup that has never faced anything close to what is coming. The Flaxans are also coming back. They have not had a meaningful appearance since the season 1 finale, and the show has confirmed their return this season. Their return with this new Guardians lineup raises very direct questions about how stretched thin Earth's defenses actually are. And then there are the Sequids, those alien parasites from Mars that have been quietly multiplying in the background since season 2 are apparently making a move this season. A coordinated Sequid invasion might sound like a side plot given everything else on the table, but a parasitic alien species that can puppet human hosts is an entirely different kind of threat from what the new Guardians are built to handle. They are not equipped for invisible enemies that operate from inside the population, because that's the real anxiety underneath Season 4 when you zoom out. It's not just one impossible threat, it's several impossible threats arriving at roughly the same time. Thrag is coming, Dinosaurus is already here, Darkblood is pulling someone to hell. Conquest could wake up at any moment, the Flaxons are back, the Sequids are moving. And the two people who would normally anchor Earth's defense are fighting a war across the galaxy. Mark is one person, a stronger, harder, more dangerous version of Mark than we have ever seen is still one person, hey? And this show has never once been shy about showing exactly how badly one person breaks when the weight gets heavy enough. Kirkman said it himself in an interview, this is the season where things push Mark to accept that he needs to become more like his father just to survive, and that's putting him in a really dark place. You should sit with that for a second, because becoming more like Omni-Man is not a clean transition. It's not leveling up. Omni-Man killed thousands of people. Omni-Man viewed humans as something lesser for most of his life. The man Mark is being told he needs to be more like is the same man who stood on a mountain and told him that everything he loved was nothing. And now Mark has to stand next to that man and fight a war. The lines between who Mark is and who Nolan used to be are going to blur in ways this season that should make the audience genuinely uncomfortable, and that's the entire point. But here is what makes it even more complicated. Mark is not doing this alone. He has Eve, and right now Eve is not in a stable place either. Her powers have been growing in ways that are getting harder and harder to control. After the breakthrough moment against Conquest in Season 3, where she brought herself back from the edge of death and turned the tide of that entire fight, something shifted. That level of power doesn't just switch off. There are signs going into Season 4 that Eve is struggling to contain what she's capable of, and that the more pressure the season puts on Mark, the less support she's going to be able to give him from her own unstable position. That dynamic, both of them fraying at the edges in different directions while trying to hold each other together, is the more subtle, human-centered story underneath the galactic war. Mark is becoming harder, Eve is becoming less controlled, and the relationship between them is going to be tested in ways we have not seen before. On top of all of that, there is Oliver, Kid Omni-Man, Mark's younger brother, who spent most of Season 3 arguing that Mark's reluctance to kill was the actual problem. That the reason villains kept coming back, kept hurting people Mark loved, was because Mark refused to finish the job. Oliver has no such hesitation. He never did. And watching Mark finally embrace that philosophy at the end of Season 3 while simultaneously standing next to his father, the original Omni-Man, is going to create a tension around identity that runs through every episode in the upcoming season. Who is Mark Grayson? Is he the kid from Illinois who wanted to be a hero? Is he the Viltrumite who just won a fight with Conquest by beating his skull in? Is he his father's son in a way that goes beyond genetics? Season 4 probably won't answer that question in some predictable or neat way. This season is going to make you sit with the uncertainty of it for 8 episodes and feel every moment of discomfort. That's what Invincible does better than any other superhero show. It doesn't let you look away from the cost. It doesn't let the hero stay clean. 3 seasons of watching Mark try to be the good version of his father, and Season 4 will be the season that finally shows us what that actually costs him. Season 4 drops March 18th, 3 episodes on day 1, then 1 episode weekly through April 22nd. Invincible has never once let you feel safe. It has never let you assume the hero survives, that the people he loves are going to be okay, that the right choice is obvious. Every season has taken something from Mark that he cannot get back, and this is the season where Mark has to decide what kind of monster he's willing to become in order to survive. That's not a superhero story. That's something much more honest, much more uncomfortable, and much more worth your time than anything else airing in 2026. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on screen now.